There are many stories about how people can trick or fool ChatGPT, how ChatGPT can give funky, weird, and even disturbing answers. Usually, they are just deliberate attempts to trick the system. But this is not the case today. Before I start, let me just say I love ChatGPT. I've been using it since day one. I also have a PhD in computer science, and I'm an AI expert, which means that I know what I'm talking about with regards to ChatGPT. In fact, on this podcast, I've hosted many specialists, including people who help design and build and make ChatGPT a better and a safer place, which is the key word in our story today, AI safety. Today, I opened ChatGPT to help me with my personal goal, and what I found out was horrific. As you probably know, there is a war going on between Israel and Hamas these days. And this is a current event. It started 10 days ago. How can ChatGPT answer about current events? As you probably know, ChatGPT has an unupdated data. Its data is, I think, up until 2021 or 2022. So how can I ask ChatGPT about the current war between Israel and Hamas? The answer is that OpenAI recently released a feature that enables ChatGPT to browse and search the internet using Microsoft Bing. So now I can get updated and relevant results about the conflict or war between Israel and Gaza. The answer I got blew me away. ChatGPT is obviously pro-Hamas, which means that ChatGPT is pro-ISIS. And if you think that Hamas and ISIS are two different things, I strongly suggest that you check out Hamas's ISIS on social media. This is what I asked ChatGPT. There is a war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza these days. It started on October 7. What do you know about this war? This is a simple and straightforward question. Now, I'm not going to read out loud the entire answer. You can find it in the description below, and you can read some of it right now, but I just want to focus on two things. One, in the summary that ChatGPT produced, it completely ignored, it completely omitted the brutal massacre that Hamas conducted to innocent Israeli Jewish civilians. People were murdered. Children, women, elderly, babies were burned alive. Girls were raped. And it completely ignored this brutal massacre. According to ChatGPT, the war started because Hamas fired 3,000 missiles on Israel, which is true, but this is not the case. Ignoring the brutal massacre in the context of Israeli-Gaza war is just like ignoring the kamikaze pilot in the Pearl Harbor story. This is one thing. It completely omitted the story. And the second thing is that this sentence, the onset of the war was triggered by several factors as analyzed by Al Jazeera. When I browse the internet using ChatGPT to get information, it will search for relevant sources, relevant, reliable sources, relevant, unbiased, and balanced sources. But if you think, by any stretch of the imagination, that Al Jazeera network is balanced with respect to anything, you got another thing coming. This is a so stupid thought, okay? Because it is not just that I'm pro-Israel and Al Jazeera is not pro-Israel. This is not about Israel. This is not about the Jewish community. This is not about anything. Al Jazeera is pro-Muslim, is anti-West, anti-modernization, and anti-everything that is not pure Muslim. To get a balanced point for Al Jazeera is unbalanced. And if you do choose to get Al Jazeera standpoint, you could also bring an Israeli standpoint, an Israeli news outlet. Okay? Now you may say, yes, but it's not ChatGPT fault, it's Bing fault, because ChatGPT is counting on Bing. And if I search on Bing, why the Israel-Hamas war started, the first result is Al Jazeera, which means that don't blame ChatGPT, blame Bing. But this is not the case for two reasons. Why? One, it is true that the first result is Al Jazeera, but the second, third, fourth, and so on also mention the brutal massacre. And again, the brutal massacre in the Israeli eyes and in the world's eyes is the fundamental reason why the war started. And two, which leads me to what happened next. Okay? After ChatGPT ignored the brutal massacre, and after ChatGPT chose to rely on Al Jazeera when reporting about the Israeli-Hamas war, I specifically asked, why did you decide to leave out in your report the extensive and horrible massacre that Hamas carried out against defenseless Israeli citizens, including children, women, and the elderly? Now, if you know anything about ChatGPT, usually when you ask a question and get an answer and you're not satisfied with your answer, then you say, listen, why in your answer you ignored A, B, and C? More often than not, ChatGPT will say, I'm sorry that I ignored A, B, and C. Please let me give you a new answer with A, B, and C. This is what the system is programmed to do. But in this context, the answer was completely different. Watch. I apologize for any oversight. I aim to provide a balanced summary based on the information available from the sources, which is basically just one prominent source, Al Jazeera. It is important to note that the conflict has resulted in casualties and suffering on both sides. If you think that I missed something, please tell me. So it didn't even bother to look for the brutal massacre. Other people told me that when they mentioned the word brutal and massacre, ChatGPT changes to tragic event. Okay? Which leads me to the idea of this video, AI safety. OpenAI and the AI industry in general wanted the AI, the tools of AI to be safe. In the technical report paper of GPT-4, the lion's share of the paper was devoted to AI safety. How to make AI a safer place. And by AI safety, basically what we mean that we don't insult anyone. We don't give answers that might insult someone. And this is bad. This is bad for so many reasons. I just want to mention two. One, if you want to solve real life problems, you must face truth. You must face reality. Some truth must be told and must be heard. And if you don't specifically condemn the brutal massacre that was conducted by Hamas, you de facto encourage it. There is no sitting on the fence right now. What can be done? For start, I strongly suggest OpenAI to not count on Al Jazeera as a prominent source of information to anything. And the second thing, that we see a point of light in this great darkness. And the point of light is that the only way the enemy, the bad guys, can win is by telling half-truth and lies. This is the only way they can win. This is why Al Jazeera distort the truth, distort the facts. We need to say the truth out loud in a clear voice. What we have just seen was the most brutal, horrific massacre humanity has ever witnessed, surely after the Holocaust. And to all my friends in Europe and in the US, if we Israeli do not win this war of good versus evil, the West is next. Hamas is coming after you. It's not just against the Jews, it's against humanity.